It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren was in Iowa yesterday, just 3 weeks ahead of the primaries. And what immediate changes could you see from the property tax bill that passed this legislative session? It's Monday, May 11th. Republican U.S. Senate candidate Ashley Hinson says she'd like to create more tax incentives for first-time home buyers. She made her comments at a campaign event in Ankeny last Friday with U.S. Senate Majority Leader John Thune. She hosted a roundtable to discuss how tax cuts and Trump administration policies are affecting Iowans. Hinson says federal legislation that removed taxes on tips and overtime hours helps people save, but there needs to be more support.
How do we make sure people can save the money they need to make a down payment for a home? So you're taking advantage of the overtime hours that you can work, but also we need to make sure people can save tax. There needs to be a tax incentive there for first-time home buyers.
Hinson is currently the representative for Iowa's 2nd Congressional District. She faces former state Senator Jim Carlin in the Republican primary in about 3 weeks. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren was in Iowa yesterday at a campaign event for Democratic Senate candidate Zach Wahls. Here's IPR's Natalie Krebs.
Wahls is a state senator from Coralville and former Senate Minority Leader. He was joined on stage by progressive Democrat Warren, who ran for president in 2020. Warren said Wahls is the best candidate to take on Republicans in Congress and fight for policies that make basic necessities like housing more affordable for Iowans.
Zach is in this fight because he genuinely believes we can make this a country that works better for working people, and that we can do that together.
Wahls faces State Representative Josh Turek in the Democratic primary on June 2nd. I'm Natalie Krebs, IPR News.
House Speaker Pat Grassley says it's hard to gauge exactly when homeowners will start to see the impact of the property tax relief bill passed by the legislature. He says the 2% cap on city and county revenue growth is the hallmark of the bill. Grassley says the final deal has more exceptions to the growth cap in response to local government's concerns about rising costs.
We felt that we heard about insurance, pensions, so those are two of the things that are exempted for the local governments. Now, in the future, if we ever have to come in and look at that because the system's not working, that's a possibility. But I think where we ended was actually a good place.
Grassley says shifting some school funding to the state to lower property taxes and a new homestead exemption will have a more immediate effect. Grassley made his comments on Iowa Press on Iowa PBS. Iowa is in the lowest tier in a new report that looks at public health emergency preparedness. The yearly Ready or Not report by the nonprofit Trust for America's Health evaluates factors like workforce mobility and public health funding in each state to determine its preparedness. Nadine Grecia is the president and CEO of the nonprofit. She says the rankings are meant to show all states where they have room for improvement.
What we're identifying is that there are areas in which there are opportunities to take those data and strengthen preparedness and readiness in states.
The report found Iowa ranked 20th in the country for preventable and treatable causes of death before 75 and found just 44% of Iowans got a flu shot last season. It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. We're living in divided times through politics, wealth, and even the way we get information. The latest season of Unsettled from IPR takes a closer look at the Great Divide, with open conversations about faith and politics, the income gap, and ways to reconnect. In just a moment, we'll hear from Talk of Iowa's Charity Nebbe to share some highlights from the series. Welcome back. It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. It's stressful to be a human, and especially in a time of deep division in our society and politics, the divide is causing more stress. The latest season of Unsettled from IPR takes a closer look at the Great Divide in communities, politics, faith, the economy, and the way we get information. Hosted by Talk of Iowa's Charity Nebbe. She's here this morning. Good morning, Charity.
Hello.
What inspired this season?
Well, we are always talking about how politically divided we are. But this division is just so much bigger than politics. In fact, it feels kind of like political polarization is a symptom of a bunch of other problems. So we wanted to pick out some of those problems and just really do a deep dive and talk about some of the forces that are driving us apart.
One episode focuses on the wealth gap, which is at its greatest point in the 3 decades that it's been tracked. What stuck with you from that episode?
In the first part of that episode, I talk with 2 filmmakers, Madison Deshay Duncan and Richard Duncan. They are co-directors of a documentary called The Center Street Story, an urban renewal retrospective. And Center Street was this thriving Black neighborhood in Des Moines, and it was basically flattened for I-235. And that's the story of so many Black neighborhoods all over the country. So I wanted to focus on that story because I think it's really important to understand that a lot of the wealth gap is intentional. It was created by structural discrimination, like redlining. And even though that intention isn't still written into our laws, the legacy of that is still with us. And of course, there are a lot of other factors driving the wealth gap right now and making it even wider. But I think that we can't ignore that one anymore. And the story of Center Street is just one that every Iowan should know.
There's one episode about faith and politics. Why did you want to take a closer look at that?
That one was kind of difficult to think about and really frame. We felt like it was really important to talk about Christian nationalism, which is a powerful movement that is threatening our democracy in this country right now. It's a political movement, but it's also a religious movement. So we really wanted to dig in and understand what's going on with Christian nationalism. I think it's a term that a lot of us throw around, or a phrase that a lot of us throw around, but we don't necessarily really comprehend what we're talking about. So we did really talk with an investigative journalist, Catherine Stewart, and really understand what's going on with Christian nationalism. But politics and religion are really intertwined in other ways as well. We thought that the best way to try to understand this connection between politics and religion was to bring faith leaders together. So we brought 4 Christian faith leaders together to have a very open and honest conversation. And I learned so much. It was such a powerful conversation. And I'm just really proud that we were able to create space for that.
What do you want people to take away from this season of Unsettled?
Most importantly, I want people to understand that this division goes beyond politics. And it's not that we're rooting for 2 teams on a national political level, and that's the great divide. I want people to look at how division is affecting them in their lives and to think about where some of those uncomfortable feelings may be coming from. And then most importantly, I want people to listen to episode 5 and meet all of these amazing community builders, people who as individuals are making incredible differences in the lives of others and bringing people together, and think, what can I do?
I can't wait to hear it. Thank you, Charity.
Thank you, Megan.
And you should check it out. You can listen to Unsettled at IPR.org or search Unsettled Iowa wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm Megan McKinney. Thanks for listening to Here First from IPR Today. I hope you had a great weekend and enjoy your Monday.